And the cowardly ego dare not admit to itself that it doesn't know what to do. It dare not say, I don't know how to build a better system. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to change this. And so they get together and they get flamboyant and aggressive and angry. And if right now you feel hurt personally that I say that you have a cowardly ego, which I too have, then know this, the whole of humanity has it. Why did you feel hurt if you don't identify too heavily with the illusory self of the thought consciousness or the ego? If you feel attacked, it's your ego that feels attacked, because I'm talking about the collective here. And so when we try to change things and we refuse to admit that we don't know what to do, we refuse to even be conscious that we're doing it, then what we are saying is, my will be done, not thy will. Because in that light of silence is where the innate intelligence of Mother, Father, Creator comes through. The super consciousness, the present moment awareness. It comes through and it shows you what to do. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven is not happening because we refuse to let go of feeling that we know. We refuse to let go of our cowardly egos. And it's cowardly because when it lets go, it disappears. So its cowardice is in its self-protection and self-preservation. When it let go to the will of God, it's gone and it knows it's gone. So it hangs on for dear life because it fears the unknown. Because when you say God's will be done, you don't know what that will is. But here's the thing, you can't fear the unknown, you can only fear what you think about the unknown, so it's scaring itself to keep its own identity. This is how tricky it is, and that's Satan. That's Satan wrecking your life. That's Satan wrecking God's plan. That's Satan's society right now, in many parts.
I am the light of love.
Hey beautiful family, before I start, an abundance of love from myself to you guys, and love and compassion is just so important in my life at the moment, and will be for the rest of my life, I presume, to have love and compassion coming from my inner peace. You know, I'm not the first to see it, and many of you know it too, but what many of us are is a minority, because we are the ones who see that the world is agreeing to it with thought, and so can't manifest any of it. And so this is why Satan is ruling the world. Satan does rule the world. That's why we have an antichrist system that can bomb places but can't feed them. Satan rules the world. But what can you do about that? Well, you have to identify what Satan is. You can't say it's a man, pitchfork with it. Satan is an element of consciousness playing out inside the human vehicle. Jesus Christ is also an element of consciousness that plays out in the human vehicle. And so Satan does rule the world. But Jesus Christ gave us a solution. And I've been speaking about this solution too, but the problem is that most will not let go of the trap that Satan has them in. Now, in the Lord's Prayer, which presumably everybody probably listening to me has heard, Jesus Christ says, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Well, seemingly right now, many of us have connected to that presence which is full of love and compassion, and it's guided our lives from a broken mess into bringing fruits of love and compassion into the world. So some of us are aware how you allow the will to happen, because the will can only occur through the human vehicle. The will of God happens through mankind. So how do we make that happen? Well, the problem comes that the system is chaotically built from the thought form identity, from carnality, and carnality, as Christ said, is enmity to the laws of God. So the thought form identity is building this chaotic system, and the persons within there are worldly. Now what that means is most of society is worldly, and homes are worldly. Now the worldly person will seek peace in food. They will seek peace in Netflix, in pornography, in alcohol. The spiritual person knows that if they take too much junk food, or if they take too much food into themselves, that it will take away their peace. I feel less peace when I watch Netflix than what I do when I'm in a state of the presence of God, and so I don't use it. Maybe once every 3 months, Fritzy and I will watch a movie. Literally, if there's something of interest, it's that rare. But that's because I like to remain in the presence of the light of silence, where I have ultimate peace. And so this is the different approaches. The spiritual person will know that they have to have a discipline, whereas these things can't take away their peace. The worldly person will seek in the world for these things to bring them peace. And so because of that, you end up with these mass disparities in wealth, and persons saying it's not fair, because they too feel that this person is using all their wealth to get all this extra peace and pleasure, which is the illusion of peace, and I want that too. How's it fair that I don't have that? Well, if we all just had inner peace, then we wouldn't need to amass huge amounts of wealth to try and find peace in the sports car, etc., etc. So this is the worldly person and the spirit person. This is the way of human journey. And so many homes are in the worldly. And because of that, we are in thought. And because we are in thought, we are not rooted in the peace of the presence of spirit. So we keep chasing around looking for that peace, because it's the number one priority for humans, is to find joy and peace and contentment and safety. And so we find that in the presence of God, on the spiritual path. In the worldly path, the wealthier you are, the more distracted you can be and find more satiation, so as you feel some content, but you will never find that true peace. If you look at the system that's been manifest off the back of that worldliness, and you look at persons looking at it and saying, I don't like that, they are saying, I don't like Satan's plan. They're saying this is wrong. They're saying come here. But what we have is an element of unconsciousness, because they agree to hear. They agree to thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. They agree that there is a better way. But they don't surrender their thought identity. So they stay inside Satan's world, saying, I know what's best here for the world. I know what a better system looks like. I know how to change the world. I know how to change the system. I know that if I just protest these humans who are somehow succumbing to this lower energy expressing through them of lying and cheating us, etc., that when we take them out, we will know what to do. And yet they'll have no idea what to do, because they will be rooted inside the thought form identity where Satan has control. And so the same story will happen again in a different way. And the reason for that is because what Christ tried to show us, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, can only happen. It can only happen when we get rid of thought and root ourselves in the light of silence, in the presence of God, in the truth of spirit. And this is a factual occurrence in persons' lives. Now, facts and truth are very peculiar. You will get a fanatical Islamist who says their truth, they believe it's an illusion and a delusion. They believe if they kill these people, they'll go to a harem in heaven and be very happy. This is illusory truth. This is people believing a fact as an illusion. A fact is, here in reality, the sky is blue with white clouds. Here in reality, if you jump off a tall building, you're going to be in trouble. These are facts. This is truth. So, for many of us, what you can't see, if you've never left your thought form identity, is we were there too. And I had a 40-day water fast back in 2011, 2012. And in that period leading up to it, I wanted to change the world, but I didn't know how to change the world. And those right now who want to change the system, they have a cowardly ego. And I had that same cowardly ego. And the cowardly ego dare not admit to itself that it doesn't know what to do. It dare not say, I don't know how to build a better system. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to change this. And so they get together and they get flamboyant and aggressive and angry. And if right now you feel hurt personally that I say that you have a cowardly ego, which I too have, then know this, the whole of humanity has it. Why did you feel hurt if you don't identify too heavily with the illusory self of the thought consciousness or the ego? If you feel attacked, it's your ego that feels attacked, because I'm talking about the collective here. And so when we try to change things and we refuse to admit that we don't know what to do, we refuse to even be conscious that we're doing it, then what we are saying is, my will be done, not thy will. Because in that light of silence is where the innate intelligence of Mother, Father, Creator comes through. The super consciousness, the present moment awareness. It comes through and it shows you what to do. And in my 40-day water fast, I gave up saying, I just said, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I was like, but whatever, I'm not intelligent enough, knowledgeable enough, wise enough to know how to change the world. But at whatever capacity I have as a man, you know. The light of silence, the one that knit me together in my mother's room, knows my potential. And so I said, okay, I surrender. Jesus said, I come not to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me. So I surrendered and I said, and it led me with 11:11 initially, but it drew me in on this journey. And it was a journey where I had to keep John out of the equation when it came to the action in reality, when it came to the factual reality. Go to Africa. Of course, naturally, John comes forward with the thought form and all his fears and said, I'm not going there, I've never been there before in my life, and I don't know, I don't have enough money for that, what can I possibly do? This all comes, but I just ignored it, and I said, no, I remember when I'm rooted in the light of silence, in the presence of the truth of the Spirit, that this is where it's telling me to go. So I'm going to go there despite that.
Naitwa Viki. Umechoka? Wewe unapaswa. Pole, unaitwa nani?
Shamimu.
Shamimu, pole.
A new beginning is waiting for us. How are you to know? How are you to know? It's all the things you do, all the things I don't.
Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven is not happening because we refuse to let go of feeling that we know. We refuse to let go of our cowardly egos. And it's cowardly because when it lets go, it disappears. So its cowardice is in its self-protection and self-preservation. When it let go to the will of God, it's gone and it knows it's gone. So it hangs on for dear life because it fears the unknown. Because when you say God's will be done, you don't know what that will is. But here's the thing, you can't fear the unknown, you can only fear what you think about the unknown, so it's scaring itself to keep its own identity. This is how tricky it is, and that's Satan. That's Satan wrecking your life. That's Satan wrecking God's plan. That's Satan's society right now, in many parts. Because thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, we have tried with the agreement of thought all around the world to bring the will that the messenger Christ told us God had for the world, which is a will of compassion and love and caring. And we failed. And the reason we failed is that we've tried to do it with the machinery of Satan, which is thought, and the thought form identity, and staying in there. Thy will be done can only be done if you surrender it and you give it up. And that takes walking by faith and not by sight. This takes total surrender and trust. And that's what we are afraid of. We dare not let go. We think that we know. We dare not admit that we don't know. We dare not admit that we're scared. We dare not admit that we're afraid of the unknown, whichever way it is. We're afraid of Satan's unknown future that we can semi-predict. We're afraid to let go and let God's will take over our life, which we can't predict at all. We're scared, we're fearful. You just have to come into this state where you let go, because that's all thought, and root yourself in the presence of Spirit where the peace resides. And when the peace comes over you, so too comes up the compassion and the love. And then Spirit will guide you and will show you, here is where we can take you and start building that better world that you so desire. But so long as you stay engaging inside the world that carnality has built, then you can't bring the transformational energy in there. Because you can't light other candles unless your candle's lit. And your candle is not lit if you still don't admit that you don't know how to build that better system and you need backup. And if you still dare not admit to those loved ones around you, I've never gone and sought God's will for my life. I've never done that. I've never gone and sat alone and gone through the tumultuous difficulties and the battle of recognizing myself and seeing my thoughts and surrendering that and letting go of it and admitting it doesn't know what's best for itself most of the time. And that crumbling journey of sitting alone with all of that turmoil, which is so tough at first, but then becomes an absolute joy as it progresses. I haven't done that. I've never really sought the will. So thy will be done in heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. It can't happen. It cannot happen unless human beings agree to admit that they don't know. And their cowardly ego will not do it. It will not do it until they become fully conscious of it, or they have the dark night of the soul, or whatever needs to occur. But right now, many out there are on the fringe of it. Society's got them at boiling point. They're ready to tear society apart. And what needs to happen is they need to revert their gaze inwards. And they need to see that if they want to tear society apart, they have to tear their worldly self apart by dismantling the thought form identity and surrendering. I did not come here to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me. Surrender to that will of God and have no fear and trust it. And once it starts working in your life, once you follow it and you start realizing that the identity of John is gone and there's a new identity here, to be born again as Christ warned you it was going to be, that in this new identity, that as an apple tree apples, a human will fruit their fruit. I charity to charity. You might corporation to corporation. You might teacher a teacher out of your... But it will come from the innate intelligence, not the chaotic wondering and battling of don't know, I don't know, but this innate knowing intelligence will flow and blossom through you when you enter that light of silence and you sit still with it. Because if, as Christ said, the will of God in heaven must happen on earth, then you must speak the language of heaven. And the reality is, as Rumi said, the language of God is silence. All else is pure interpretation. So if you're going to beat Satan ruling this world, you've got to beat Satan ruling you and ruling your home. And you cannot do that from within inside the paradigm of where he operates. You have to do it by leaving. You have to let the will of God come through you. And you have to be really honest when you say to yourself, because your ego will trick you and say, I am doing the will of God. Did you seek it? Or did you just Google and YouTube and carry on with all of that and get worked up and agree with the false holy, as it can be called, that this is what I should be doing. I should be bringing compassion to the world. And yet you're looking down on people, calling them sheeple, instead of looking down to pull them up, which is the only time you should look down on anyone. Did you ever really seek? Be honest with yourself. Or has your ego tricked you into believing that too? Has Satan tricked you into believing that you have sought the will of God in your life? And for the majority of people, Satan has tricked the vast majority that they have sought the will of God in their life. And they never did. Because as soon as they started seeking it, Satan started attacking them with uncomfortable thoughts. And so they go back to the thoughts, and they start asking themselves questions to try and find a peaceful place, and they start grabbing junk food and bad habits and pornography to find a peaceful space, and they become worldly again, and they feed straight back into his trap. And that's how you beat Satan ruling the world. Stop feeding it. Stop feeding it. It's so straightforward. And be honest. See your mind. Know what it's doing. Know how it's in opposition and attacking you. Know that it's tricking you into believing that you have sought the will when you have not. Find it. Look at it. Watch it. And if you want to go into that space really quick before I go, repeat a word in your head. Just any word. Any. Love. Repeat it. Love, love. Inside your head. Keep going. Keep going. Who's watching you say that word inside your head? If you are your thoughts, who was just watching you say that word? It's a good starting point. I love you all. God bless, guys. Bye.